I've survived over 1,000 days in my survival world, so I decided to put all my adventures in one video. Enjoy. Now, the first few days in this world were spent like any other Minecraft world. Collecting and gathering materials such as essential ores, wood, and other tools. And with that, it concludes the first 10 days of my survival world. And then on day 11, I found a village, which I decided was the perfect area to start building my villagers and trading them. After I finished work on the villager breeder, I started working on a villager trading hall because villagers can trade you diamond armor for emeralds. And then the next few days were just spent mining out the room. Now that the room is done, it means that we can
kidnap some more villagers!
And kidnap I did, because not a single villager was saved on that day. As to how I was gonna get these emeralds, fishermen villagers will actually trade you emeralds for a string. As to how I was gonna get this string, well, I made a string duper. Now that I had an efficient way to get emeralds, I started trading for them with my villagers. And soon enough, I even had diamond armor. The rest of the days were pretty easy, other than a slight hiccup, but other than that, I was just building the trading hall. And that pretty much sums up day 10 through 50. And then day 50 through 100 was just spent beating the game. Since I did die a few times, I'm only going to include important moments for time's sake. Okay, now that I have enough ender pearls, I have to get back without dying. Now, I actually didn't record myself fighting blazes, but this is pretty much how it went. And then after that, I was able to craft up the Eyes of Ender. And then I found the Stronghold. And then I found the End Portal room, and I started filling it out. I had conquered my world, and now the only thing I needed was an elytra, so I soon found my nearest gateway, and I went through to find an end city. And unfortunately I died, but that didn't stop me from going back, and eventually I did find another end city. Oh look, an end city, and it has a ship too. Now I just gotta pillar up and get it. And my elytra. And that brings us to day 110, which is about the same time I realized that my armor was trash. This needs to change. Now this can be done either two ways. One, with an enchanted book that you'll get from villagers, and two, with an enchanting table where you'll manually enchant your armor. I first chose the enchanting table, which requires 5 obsidian and 2 diamonds. However, this method wasn't very effective due to the unpredictability of the enchantments. So I'm gonna be using villagers because librarians can trade you enchanted books for emeralds. However, as my trading hall couldn't hold any more villagers, I knew that had to change. So I stocked up on pickaxes and I started digging. Okay, now that the room is all mined out, it's time to get some villagers in here, so... And that's every single villager successfully kidnapped, collected. Now that the hard part was done, it was pretty easy just trading with the villagers and then enchanting my armor like shown. And then the only thing I had to do after that was decorate the room, which was pretty easy. I had now finally finished the basics of Minecraft, and then on day 120 is when I finally built my iron farm. And that took me to day 130, which is about the same time I realized I needed a slime farm. And that's a slime farm finished. And then the next farm was pretty easy because it was just a mob grinder, which I soon finished quickly. Now that I was done with building my farms, I knew it was time to get netherite armor, and in order to get that, you have to go to the nether to mine it, and so I did. I first started collecting TNT, and this was made easy by my mob grinder that gave me gunpowder, and my duper, which gave me sand. So after a couple of hours of AFK, I had a pretty decent amount of TNT.
Wow.
And then I soon started mining, and pretty quickly I already found ancient debris. However, later this would not be the case because after I ran out of TNT, I had only acquired about a fraction of how much ancient debris I needed. However, I would not let that stop me because after several hours of mining, I finally had enough ancient debris. So I then smelted all the ancient debris and then I crafted it into ingots. However, I could not put it on my armor yet as I did not have an upgrade template, so I then scoured the nether for bastions, eventually finding an upgrade template. However, if you thought that was the end, then you'd be wrong. Because as I only had one upgrade template and I wanted to upgrade all my diamond armor, it would not be enough. As each upgrade template cost 7 diamonds, this was not going to be easy. Now, as there's multiple ways of getting diamonds, I decided on killing 2 birds with 1 stone by going end busting. By going end busting, not only would I be getting tons of elytras, but I'd also be getting the diamonds required. And finally, after going at this for hours on end, I had a pretty decent amount of elytras and diamonds. Now I'm finally able to make that netherite armor. I just have one more thing to do. Now I'm done. At this point, I was nearly 400 days in my survival world, and I knew it was time to move out of my trading hall. I first started by scouting the area for the place to build it. Okay, this place seems perfect. Now we just gotta clear it out.
Nice.
Now this base is gonna have a massive problem. It's gonna require a ton of materials, a lot of which I don't have. But that's gonna change. I say this because the next 50 days were spent collecting and building the farms required for these materials. So... that all the farms were done, I had to collect all the materials, which wasn't too hard since I already had all the farms, just a little annoying. Next, I moved on to building, which was still pretty difficult, but a little more enjoyable. I had first started out by building a big ring around my farming area. This was going to be made of stone bricks. Once the wall was done, I started placing torches on the interior to make sure no mobs spawned, and then I relocated my basalt farm because it was going to be in the way. Then I mined out a center area, and then this area would become the lower part for my base. I had finished the lower part of my base, and it was looking epic, except I had just ran out of materials, so I took a quick trip to get some more. And once I had recouped my materials, I started filling in the wall with stone bricks. And once I had finished the walls, I started detailing the sides of them. Now that the wall was done, I started terraforming the area in front of the wall to prepare it for the build that was going to go. After the terraforming was done, I started laying out the outline for where the builds were going to go. And then I started working on building the main entrance. Now that I had finished the entrance area, I was more than halfway done. The only thing left to do was the interior, which I decided to make into a treasury room because I had a lot of diamond armor. And then finally, the last thing I had to do was build the main castle on top. And that took me to day 600, which is about the same time I realized I needed a storage system, because this chest monster is not going to suffice. If you didn't know, storage systems require a lot of redstone items, and that's redstone collected. Next, I had to AFK the tree farm to get the chest required for this build. Now that I finished collecting the redstone items, I had to collect the items for the build, and this would include easy materials except white concrete. However, I was able to farm this pretty easy from my block duper, and then I made a concrete converter to turn it from powder. Now that material collection was done, we were almost 1/4 of the project done. However, this next step wouldn't be that easy, as I would have to transform this entire island.
Oh my God!
And finally, after blood, sweat, and 6,626 blocks mined, I am finally finished. Next, I started digging a big hole, as this is where my sorting system would go. And I'm done. Next, I started building the actual sorter. Now, I'm no redstone expert, but I am pretty proud of myself once it worked, since I did design it myself. Now that all the preparation was done, it was time to move on to the most anticipated part. Even though building may have been done, no storage system is complete with no items, so that's exactly what I did next. I first started on the easy items, and then progressively getting harder. I first started working on the simple items, such as wood types. And those are the wood types completed. Next up, a little more difficult, is going to be collecting all the different ore blocks. However, if you thought that was the end, then you'd be dead wrong. Because for the next 3 f***ing hours, I was stuck collecting deep slate coal ore. And finally, after finding it, you'd think I'd be done. But no, because I spent another 3 f***ing hours finding deep slate emerald ore. Man, I can't believe I spent so much time on some f***ass project. Anyways, that's the ores done. Next up, we got the stones. And this is the stone collected. Next, I filled in all the terracotta types. And the sediments, too. By this point, I was already 2/3 of the way done, and at this rate, I'd be finished by day 800. All that was left now were the colored blocks. Finally, the last block. This brought me to day 830, and this is the same time when I started work on my new mega base. The reason I'm doing this is to transform this ugly area. I then split this up into 3 steps. I first started on step 1, which was building an outline. And then on a step 2, which was terraforming. And then after that, I took a break to build a wither skeleton farm. Now, this would be extremely useful because I would need tons of beacons in the future. Once I had the skeleton skulls needed, I killed the wither under the bedrock portal. And just like that, I have the nether stars required. Now that I had the beacons, I would put them right here and here. And I would use the last beacon for haste light. And once I finally had the blocks, I was able to finish step 3. Now that the preparation phase was over, it was time to move on to the actual build. And finally, now that material collecting is done, we can move on to building. Finally, after hundreds of hours and countless days, I made it to day 1000.